storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Here we go.
Alongside Vallu as the lights are coming on here in Mexico. And they go out, and we are underway straight away here. And it looks to me like Vallu hasn't got the best start off the line. It's actually going to be AJ already up into first before they get down towards turn one. However, Vallu will be able to dip back in for some slipstream. Long run down to turn one here. And there is Vallu diving back up the inside, but he cannot make the move stick. And AJ is up into the lead. Meanwhile, Walter's had a great start. He's up from 5th into 3rd. Janne Tripkov dropping one position to 4th with Peso, also dropping one down to 5th. Turbo Tortoise has managed to be clean off the start, but there's a Renault! And there's 2 Renaults in the wall, and that was also Dougie Falcons, who just about escaped unscathed, but it's Max and JB in the wall, neither of them with a modicum of front wing left on their Renaults. As well under the virtual safety car as we now get racing once again. There's a Haas going for a move. That is Janne Tripkov up the inside of Walter into turn 12, and he makes the move stick. Really nicely done on the restart there. It's Turbo Tortoise who's round. He managed to get through the first part of the first lap, only to get spun round there in turn 12. And as a result, you think he's struggling to get going as well there in the McLaren Falcons with that legendary start up into 8th. So I wonder if he... Oh, who is that? That is AJ, who almost lost it entirely. He's going to have to cut that corner, and he's got a 5-second penalty for the corner cut as well. And he's rejoined in a dangerous manner that's almost caught out Walter, who had to veer to get around him. Now there goes his teammate through as well. AJ down into 6th, and with that penalty to boot.
And he can't even argue about the penalty as well, even though he's lost a position, because he's going to have to serve that penalty in the pits. Behind, Dougie Falcons going for a move on Rafa Martins. Up the inside towards turn 1, up ahead because he Pesa going down the inside of Walter. So 2 moves are coming through. Dougie side by side with Rafa. Rafa will squeeze at Dougie. They leave each other just enough room. And now still Wang, Checkers coming into the equation side by side between the Portuguese driver and Dougie Falcons. Dougie round the outside into turn 4 is sometimes super hard to keep the momentum, but Dougie Falcons has pulled off the move.
UK getting squarely on the exit of turn 11 and picking up a 3-second time penalty for his troubles. And now he's compromised into 12, where Dougie does a wall of death around the outside and does it beautifully.
And look at Rafa Martins as well, right on the back of AJ. Can AJ close up? A2's looking for a move down the inside. Rafa Martins will go up the inside of AJ. A2 gets the job done. Rafa Martins will not be able to find a way through. And Dougie Falcons has to sit in at P6 for 1 lap longer.
It's further back in the house, but here is the same engine in the Ferrari car, getting past another Ferrari engine in the form of that Alfa Romeo. Dougie Falcons making the move into turn 1. Reeling him in here. A bit of lag once again, but there it is. It was 9/10 of a second halfway through the lap, and now it is a couple of tenths in the other direction. Dougie Falcons moves up into what is currently 2nd place. Probably not going to give so much of a fight to Dougie Falcons on the way down to turn 1. There's only so much of a fight he could potentially offer anyway. And there is the move almost done. Actually, he is giving a fight. I tell you what, he's dove back up the inside there. I don't think it's worked out for him too well. Is he round? I think he is. He's gone yet. He's no longer in the picture. And that's Rafa Martins falling by the wayside after going into the side of Dougie Falcons into turn 1. They should have this move already bought and paid for at this stage. So moves in the final sector don't seem like the way to go, if you ask me.
Using up that ERS tank. And will it be enough to actually follow Turbo Tortoise through on Still Wang? And I think it will.
Yeah, it does look like it is going to be just about here. No, Still Wang breaking later around the outside and taking a better line through too. Here is Dougie Falcons, though, who's getting past Peso. The straight has hardly even begun, and Dougie Falcons is already up and past the Williams drive.
Able to overtake Walter, and here comes Zedillo around the outside of Maverick. There's a contact between the two of them. Down the inside is so hard to run side by side through turns 4 and 5. Side by side again through turn 6, and Zedillo makes the move stick up.
And they will do battle in his honor in towards turn 1, but that is not much of a battle as Walter comfortably routes A2 UK there, and back up into 5th he goes. Doesn't come back into the pits. Meanwhile, A2 UK and Walter, they're back at it again, and A2 goes around the outside of turn 1. They will be on softs at the very end with the lightest fuel load. There up the inside, that was Peso and Dougie Falcons. Peso not letting Dougie drive away from him, and Dougie picks up a 3-second time penalty in the battle, forced out wide on the exit of 3 as well, and that is going to be Vallu slipping past at least one of these cars. You would have thought Vallu doesn't really need to be involved in this fight right now, and probably could do with avoiding any front wing damage. He's not risking too much in battling with Dougie Falcons, and actually pushes him a bit wide there on the exit of 5.
Remainder of this lap, he might be able to pull a second as around the outside tries A2 UK. This is going to cost the Alfa Romeo a whole bunch of time. He's forced to skittle over the curb on the inside, down into turn 6, still side by side. But A2 hasn't got the job done, and critically, he's just within a second of water. He's lost about 8 seconds to Peso in that, with that 2-lap overcut. Something
That's huge.
Did he have a 5-second time penalty?
I don't believe so. Down the straight. And Turbo Tortoise throwing a defensive shape this time around, does not want to let Cedillo pass, and you can tell as they bang wheels, some aggressive driving between the two of them. Close behind Turbo Tortoise, down towards turn 1, sending move up the inside, but once again, Turbo Tortoise must be running really low drag in that car, because at the end of the straight, Turbo is not getting passed very easily by these guys, who ought to be just breezing past, especially with their DRS and tire advantage, and now Maverick failing to get past has left him vulnerable to Chegwin. This battle has been brewing the whole race. In fact, it's not really been brewing, it's been actively bubbling over this whole race. Awesome carbon fiber going flying there. That was off of Maverick's car after some contact between the two of them. So Maverick now missing an end plate.
So Turbo's going to be able to hold on to P8. And here comes Chegwin down the inside into the final sector. Oh, contact between the two of them. They are clearly not happy with each other. Now AJ looking for a way to join in the party and find a way to take advantage of these two battling.
And this is the final lap, and Vallu is already in the final corner of the final lap. Couldn't quite lap Marankello, so Marankello will get one more lap around. But Vallu takes the win once again in comfortable fashion. 12.6 seconds down to Yane Tripkov in second, and the same amount of time penalties between the two of them. So that gap will remain the same, but Yane, what a race from him. Really returning to his former glory there and taking his best result of the season in second. Peso will come across the line in third to get his second podium of the season as well. Dougie Falcons with a great recovery drive from the back of the grid, but that last pit stop really cost him, and he fell out of range of Peso and into fourth. And that's the best he could hope for in this race. Walter finishing well adrift of his teammate in the end after battling in the opening stint, down in fifth. Cedillo with a good result, but will fall down due to time penalties. He'll lose out to Turbo Tortoise first, and then AJ, who gets up into sixth, just about holding.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 11 of the Formula X Racing Season 2 Championship, the penultimate race of the season. I'm Yousuf Milky Cereal, joined by Jacob Aladar Hancox. And Jacob, we've had 10 great races so far, some greater than others. Mexico, as you were mentioning while we were in the break before we came live, a lot of penalties kind of extinguished some of the battles somewhat. Here at USA, probably going to be seeing some more time penalties coming through, but probably not as much as we saw last time out in Mexico.
Yeah, it would be hard to beat what we saw in Mexico last time out in terms of penalties. And for these drivers' sakes, I hope that they will not beat that. They will definitely be hoping to try and keep away from those drag extensions. But as you mentioned, they are pretty easy to pick up in the USA as well. So hopefully we don't see too many.
Now, for those of you wondering why my camera might be slightly blurry, essentially what happened last week is I got my predictions completely wrong. So our producer's just letting everyone know that my face, my camera, just like my thoughts and my beliefs are completely irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about the race that did happen last time out at Mexico, because it looked very promising for Alfa Romeo for quite a while. AJ lining up on the front row of the grid was leading the race as well, but AJ and Dougie Falcons running into issues over the course of the race, and well, that kind of threw their race down the drain somewhat.
Yeah, they both managed to recover to a reasonable extent towards the end. AJ in particular due to having fewer penalties than everyone else, whereas Dougie just had pretty much a straight drive back up through the field, as we would expect for someone of his caliber. But yeah, what promised to be the AJ show turned out to be the Yane Tripkov show, really. Iceman, as we mainly know him, but Yane Tripkov, as he now likes to be known, it is his name after all. The Macedonian ex-champion now of Premier X, and yeah, he had a great race last time out. It's a weird thing to say about someone who finished 12 and 3/4 seconds off the lead, but we all know how unbelievably good Vallu is. And for Yane to finish that far ahead of the rest of the field, you can see the gaps from to Peso and then to Dougie, etc., etc. It was really a great drive from him.
Yeah, and we're so used to everything being the Value show that we essentially got very hyped about Yane. We kind of labeled that as his comeback drive. Thank you very much for that production. Love the F on my camera. What can I do? It is what it is. So it was a shame, or it was a great race from Yane, able to climb up the order. But in all of the kind of excitement that we had about Yane and the Dougie Falcons and AJ, having their spins, trying to climb up through the field, we kind of forgot something rather critical, which is the fact that with that win and Dougie Falcons down in fourth, Vallu is now our FXR Season 2 champion.
Indeed, yeah. Vallu, the champion, to nobody's surprise. He's won 8 of the 10 races thus far this season. 1 win apiece also going to Dougie Falcons and Calcifer, of course. But Vallu, yeah, what a driver. I mean, just absolutely incredible consistency, pace throughout this season. The racecraft, everything has been pretty much perfect. And the only Achilles heel is the slight tendency to pick up a time penalty. And it's such a slight tendency as well that it really is hardly worth considering. So Vallu, a thoroughly deserving champion.
And the only time outside of the top 10 as well was that race in Singapore. I think every other race he has been in the top 3, I want to say. Maybe he had 1/4, but I can't put my finger on where.
I think Baku. I think he came 4th in Baku.
Yes, that was where everyone kept spinning into the castle section, and then their car was blocking the circuit. Yeah, it ruined Vallu's pole. It ruined Vallu's flying lap in qualifying, and it affected him during the race as well. But okay, let's talk about the championship in a little bit more detail. Yes, Vallu's won the championship. Yes, Dougie Falcons has not secured second. There is still a possibility for Iceman to take it mathematically, but in all likelihood, it's probably not going to happen. Let's talk about that battle for fourth, because there's 13 points separating 3 drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we can count Calcifer out of that battle for fourth unless AJ, A2 UK both fail to score relentlessly until the end of the season, because Calcifer will not be participating in these last couple of races due to circumstances that are outside of his control, outside of our control. And it's a shame because he was one of the best drivers in the division, but nevertheless, it is between Iceman, A2 UK, AJ, and Iceman does have a bit of a leap on these guys for third in the championship. So it might just be A2 and AJ scrapping over fourth, the 2 Alfa Romeos going hammer and tongs.
Yeah. And I kind of want to bring up this question to you right now, Jacob, which is AJ, A2, and Iceman. Which of those 3 do you think is the quickest?
The quickest?
Yeah.
I think the quickest is AJ. I think in terms of absolute speed, I think it's AJ that's the quickest, which is a weird thing to say when he's the bottom of the 3 of them in the standings at the moment, but it's only by such a small amount.
And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because I think AJ has been the quickest, but you look back to 2 of his most recent races, Mexico and Japan. Mexico, I remember saying towards the start of the race that, wow, look at this. Dougie Falcons has had his issue. He's towards the back of the field. AJ and A2 are towards the front. This is Alpha's chance to leapfrog Ferrari.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, Ferrari extended their gap over Alfa Romeo. And same in Japan, AJ and Dougie Falcons both running into issues. Who knows what can happen in the final 2 races of the season? We're talking about, USA and Canada, 2 tracks where we know time penalties can come into play, just like Mexico. And I feel like it's a really mixed bag, but I kind of want to hold out for my fellow Alfa Romeo driver that he'll be able to close it down, because we're talking about a 28-point gap. And for those people new to FXR, the point system in FXR is different. And what is a 28-point gap here in F1 would probably kind of equate to about a 12-point gap.
Yeah, something along those sorts of lines. 28 points is what you get if you finish fourth, I believe. So if A2 finishes fourth, if you finish fourth and the other guy finishes or doesn't finish the race, then you will get 28 points on him, which is all the difference that can be made here. And that's pretty significant. And of course, if the other driver finishes sixth in the next couple of races, just kind of poodles home to sixth, then they're probably going to be okay. But things don't always tend to work out that simply.
No. Okay, but let's move further down the order, because we know it's a close fight for third in the championship. Luppy, Cheggers, Maverick, and, well, Now Peso as well. Peso having done, I think, about 4 races. He's right in this battle for P7. And if he is racing tonight and next week, you can definitely see him ending in that P7 spot.
Yeah, Peso is a driver that I cannot wait to see driving in Premier X full time next season. Definitely been thrilling to watch him. His reserve performances as a Division One driver have been pretty outstanding. 2 third place finishes are his best that he's managed to record thus far, and those 2 podiums, along with a couple of other sort of fifth, sixth sort of place results, have led him up to 10th in the standings, as you mentioned right now, and ahead of some other drivers who have participated in quite a few more races. So definitely very, very impressive from Peso to be able to get into that battle in the championship for what will be P7.
Yeah, it will be close. And taking a quick look then to the Constructors' Championship. Now, it's not impossible for Ferrari to jump AlphaTauri, but it is pretty much done and dusted. Not quite down in cement just yet, but I still want to talk about the battle for second in the Constructors. Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, 50 points between them. Williams are steadily dropping down the order. They were all the way up in second at one point, but since Calsper's demise, we could say they've dropped down the order. Haas are slowly picking up points, but it's been kind of hit and miss with them. Now that Iceman's putting in some solid performances, they're joining into the party as well.
Yeah, Haas, they might have to rely on some reserve performances towards the end of the season. They're back to being a one driver team, I believe. So that's not necessarily going to help them too much. But Iceman has been holding up his end of the bargain, certainly. And if
Yep.
if he'd had a consistent, solid teammate throughout this season, Haas probably would be up there battling for second as well, for sure.
Yeah, well, we know Luca would have been slightly higher up the standings, and well, if he had got some solid performances, he would be at least on 100 points, which would be putting them ahead of Ferrari. Okay,
Mhm.
so with that said and done, or I'll just make a brief mention to what happened in Division 2 and Division 1 this week. Essentially, in Division 2, there is now a 3-way battle for the championship between Burt Kawai, Fister, and Neo Element. The sad news, though, is sadly, I believe Burt has injured himself and is actually unable to race in the final 2 races. So he wasn't able to race on Wednesday, and he won't be able to race next week, which means that Fister and Neo have a chance of jumping him, but they do need to, I believe, win the race to be able to jump ahead of him. So it's tight, and it's going to go down to the wire. It's a shame for Burt, but he may still be crowned champion. Division 1, Pessa was able to take the championship. Myself and Water, it's still possible that there's a change for second, but it's not going to happen because I'm terrible. So congrats, Walter, on P2 in the Drivers' Championship. And I believe our team of Anime Romancio will secure the Constructors. So with that said and done, shall we talk a little bit about... Actually, before we talk about the track at hand, we should probably mention something regarding Season 3 of Premier X, to be precise. Ladies and gentlemen, we have prizes. Dum dum dum. £60 going the way of our Season 3 winner, as well as a trophy sent to them at no cost to the driver. Second place will be awarded £30, and third place will be getting £10. And I believe the money can be sent through a variety of different platforms or methods, I should say. So yeah, if you think you're fast and maybe you want to get yourself a bit of money, maybe to go towards your next steering wheel, maybe some very juicy Husink veiled pedals, whatever it is, maybe you can pick some up in Season 3. Who knows? Head on over to the website formulaxracing.com to sign up for Season 3. 12 races. So in just 3 months' time, that money could be yours.
Mhm.
And
And
yes, all dry season. All dry season.
yeah,
So nothing to dampen your mood.
yeah, nothing to dampen your mood, and a bit less of a sort of RNG aspect as well. A little bit less unpredictability, meaning that it is almost. I mean, in a regular season with wet conditions, it would still be the best driver that takes home the championship 99 times out of 100. But in this scenario, you can't even. You'll know that everything will have been all fair. It will have all been dry conditions. No issues that in that regard as well. So the best driver will be able to claim that £60 prize as well as that beautiful trophy as well, which you can see Iceman modeling, I'm sure, if you delve deep enough
Oh
into
yeah.
his Twitter.
Can we pull the Iceman picture up and just be like, see, if you win, you can show off just like Iceman. I, okay. So apparently, Peso is going to be racing tonight, so that should
Mhm.
spice things up. But one kind of idea that I do want to bring up, Jacob, is the
Mhm.
fact that now that we're at the end of the championship, now that the championship has been decided and determined, and we know that Vallu is our champion, I have a feeling that we might be seeing some more, I want to say, exciting racing coming through, because maybe people will try different strategies, going for a 2-stop instead of a 1-stop, maybe trying to qualify on or start outside of the top 10 so they can start on hard tires. Who knows? There's a variety of different things that we could be graced with tonight.
Yeah, certainly. Maybe a little bit sort of gloves off as well, so the drivers might be, just fighting for anything and everything, playing it a bit less tactically perhaps than they might usually do. Although there are still positions throughout the championship order that people are going to be fighting for, so I don't think everyone's going to sort of throw everything out of the window in that regard. But maybe the likes of Value, Dougie Falcons can afford to take a bit of a breather and have a bit of fun.
Production, can we have the F back, but this time for Jacob's camera? It seems
Yeah.
that we can't get both of our cameras to work. It's either my camera's ruined and Jacob's fine, or my camera's fine and Jacob's is ruined. It's like we're half face, you know. You're blurry and I'm not. I'm clear. Okay. And now your camera's just gone. Hey, wait. No. We're both crystal clear. It's insanity. Okay, let's bring up the track map then for our race tonight here at the Circuit of the Americas. A new track to F1 in the grand scheme of things, not being around as long as the likes of Silverstone and Suzuka. It's only been around for what I want to say 8 years now, but I'm almost definitely wrong. A wide track and lots of overtaking opportunities.
It depends on exactly how you're measuring. I think the first season in F1 was 2012. So if you count that as 8 years, then you're right. But yes, not a sort of classic circuit, but it has elements of a lot of other classic circuits. It has an S section, which is sort of
Yeah,
ubiquitous with modern F1 circuits and pretty much old F1 circuits as well. Places like
gotta have
Suzuka, of
an F
course, being
section.
yeah, exactly. You got to have an S section, which I don't really like. I don't like S sections that much, but I know a lot of other people do. So yeah, I mean, I'll say it. I'll say it. I don't like Suzuka. That's all I'm going to say right now. But anyway, here we then. Let's talk about the Circuit of the Americas and not Suzuka, because you got some really tricky corners in here as well. Some that really jump out to me as being very, very difficult. You've got turn 11, which I think isn't a corner that people think about very much, but it's really, really important because you've got such a long back straight here. And it is very difficult to nail that corner perfectly, in my experience, because if you get your wheels on the curbing on the outside of the exit of the corner, you will get a lot worse traction heading all the way down the straight. So you've got to make sure you get the perfect line through there. And then in terms of just actual corner difficulty and sort of having the car buck out to try and keep it on the road, turn 15 is always going to be have to be the one you got to watch out for there. I mean, it's just off camber, it's kind of sweeping through. You need to put the pad on the exit, but it's a slippery traction zone. It's just a nightmare through there.
I honestly feel that USA is low key the hardest circuit on the calendar. And I think it's a very hard circuit to learn. It's got a very, let's say it's got a very low skill floor. And there's a number of reasons for that. One, you've got a whole bunch of off camber corners. You talk about the likes of turn 19, turn 20 is off camber. It's easy just for the car to really slide out. Same for turn 1. And I think off-camber corners aren't really considered that much, but they do make circuits very difficult. And the other thing is blind braking and turn-in points. Turn 1, you cannot see the corner when you're when you're braking for it, and it's pretty much the same for the likes of turn 8 and 9. You can't really see the corner that well. You have to know exactly how the corner shapes up and just turn in before you even really see the apex. So I think it makes it very tricky. I think you can say a hot lap easily here, but to be able to do it consistently, lap after lap after lap, makes it very difficult.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, you mentioned corners where you can't really blind apex corners. They're like, I think the king of all blind apex corners on the whole calendar is turn 19.
Yeah, yeah, without a
Right?
doubt.
The turning point is so difficult to spot through there, and it's very, very overzealous with penalties both for cutting and on the exit as well. And you always just want to take a tiny bit more speed than you really can through there, so it does sort of bait you in to picking up those penalties as well.
Yeah, it's weird because you get corners like turn 19, turn 20. turn 1, turn 11, turn 12, all the hairpins and the tight corners where you really want to get that back rotation to come through so you can get onto the power as quickly as possible so that the car is rotated. But then you get more corners like I want to say from turn 6 to turn 9 where you do want to have some back rotation, but as I mentioned before, off camber, so easy to lose a back end, and that's where you really want to have that rear end stability, and well, you just find yourself not being able to get any.
Yeah, indeed. And rear instability pretty hard to come by in quite a lot of this circuit, particularly in that final sector, which I think is the most difficult one. S is always quite difficult, but I think that final sector really is a big challenge. Not so much the triple right-hander, which is just great fun. And not really
Yeah.
terribly difficult to drive, but it is a lot of fun. But yeah, pretty much every other corner, apart from 16, 17, and 18 in that final section, are just really difficult.
Could we have like a new track layout where you go through like turn 13 and then you just have a straight that goes all the way to turn 19? I think that would make the track great.
Wait, hold on. So say that. So straight what from
From
11 to
13, you take turn
13?
13 and then that just connects straight to turn 19.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, I think it takes out some of the challenge of the circuit, though. I mean, I like the
Yeah.
fact that it's a difficult circuit. I think we should keep this bit.
See, for
And
you, you'd want a straight line all the way from turn 3 to turn 8.
I wouldn't want to. I want jagged lines. I want it to be all like the first sector at Bahrain. That's what I want. That's better than S's.
Well, either way, we've got some crazy preferences here from Jacob. We shall not speak about it. What we shall speak about is the hot lap from the man who set pole position yesterday evening. We sadly don't have his live hot lap video, but he was kind enough to send us his time trial video, which is very, very fast. With the man who set the pole time in Division 1 yesterday, Peso, for a lap here at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, USA. Turn 1, blind braking and a turn-in point. You want to brake just before the white line on the approach to T1, kissing the apex and making your way down towards turn 2. You don't need to pull the car over to the left, but hug the curve over to as you make your way into the S's, so through 3 and 4 completely flat, and then lifting off as you hold it and pull it over to the right and make your way into 7, 8, and 9 of a camber. Very easy to lose the back end and very easy to abuse the corner limits. Down the hill towards turn 11, you want to be super late on the brakes, almost 60 meters, braking down into third gear. Easy on the power, super easy to lose the back end even through turn 11, as is the case through most of the track here at Texas. DRS open and on the run down towards turn 12. So at your braking point about 70, 60 meters, using up all of the curve through turn 12. Pull the car over to the left as you make your way into turn 13 and 14. Much tighter than it looks on the entry, so make sure to slow the car right down and keep the car all the way out as you swing the car in for turn 15. We don't get right up to the apex, but that's not too much of an issue as we make our way to the triple right hand of 16, 17, and 18 completely flat. Keep the car over to the right. Blind braking, blinded turn in as well for turn 19. Very easy to lose time as you make your way into the final corner. Off camber as well. Back on the power to complete your lap at 1:29.1 here at USA.
And welcome back, and welcome to qualifying, everybody here. I use Discord Light Mode, and here we are then in the Circuit of the Americas. Only 14 drivers here today, slightly abridged grid, and a fair few drivers coming in from Division 1 as well to join us here to bolster the ranks a bit in Premier X. And of course, we've been getting the likes of Walter, who is on screen right now, as Sandro Van, and I cannot remember what the San at the end stand is for. Sandro Van what?
Sand.
Is it Sandro Van Sand? Okay,
Yeah.
Sandro Van Sand, who is Walter. We have been seeing him as Walter, the Belgian driver who is currently second in the Division 1 Championship. Peso is here also in the other Williams, taking up that slot there. So that is both of the top two in the Division 1. Then we got Owen AK joining us as well. And a quick note about Chester Bennington. That is Marincello, who we have been seeing throughout the season.
Yeah, so just a bit of background behind why Marincello is racing with the Chester Bennington name. He's using it as a tribute to suicide victims. So a very nice cause from Marincello, and hopefully we can see him at his absolute best tonight.
Yeah, indeed. But we do have Vallu though here today, so I think I know my prediction for pole and for the race win as well. Although, given that Vallu has less to fight for at this stage, maybe we'll be seeing a three-stop strategy or something interesting like that coming out. Remember when Michael Schumacher did a four-stop back in about 2002? Maybe Vallu will try and do the same here today. It would be fun, and of all the circuits where it's possible, this one a bit more possible than some others.
Yeah. So 14 drivers are out on the circuit, and it is a nice sunny day here at the Circuit of the Americas. No rain in sight. We'll have to see whether there is a rain scheduled to come during the race itself, but I do not believe that is the case, and it is only Marancello at the moment who is out on those medium compound of tires.
Yeah, indeed. Everyone else opting to run the softs at the very beginning here. Seeing a pretty big lock up there from Sandra Van Sant into that infamous turn 16 or no, 15. I can't even remember now. It's turn 15, the one I was talking about just before we got into qualifying here. There's turn 19, which actually looked to do all right, but has managed to invalidate the lap. So that's not going to be too great of a lap then from Sandra Van Sant, who might look to go again on this same set of tires. Just trying to get a banker lap in at this stage, you'd have to feel, as JB goes and sets the first lap time, puts it on the board at 1:30.874.
1:30.874, and we're going to be expecting the times to be getting right down into the 29s over the course of the session. As the track rubbers in, it'll be getting quicker and quicker. Still, I guess, somewhat new for the drivers who have been used to doing the full qualifying session over the course of the season, as A2 improves, puts in a 30.1, jumping up to the top of the standings. But what can this man do in the AlphaTauri, our Season 2 champion, Vallu?
He actually had a pretty major lockup way too late on the brakes going into turn 11. So a rare mistake from the Finn there into one of the corners we highlighted before we got into qualifying. That all looked okay through 12, though, into 13 and 14. Again, meeting the apex nicely. Always feels like you have to wait so long on the throttle on the exit there. It doesn't quite meet the apex of 16, but sometimes you don't really want to. And I think Vallu is probably backed out of this one.
Yeah. So Vallu has backed on out of this lap, but so I believe it is time to make a little announcement about something that is coming through today. Or I say something that's coming through, something that we're going to do. For the first time, we're going to be bringing in polls onto the Twitch chat. So I'm just thinking of two drivers that we should compare, because we can't say who's going to get pole because it's always going to go to Vallu, right? So do we say, who's going to get second, third, or do we have like head to head between two drivers?
I think we just say who's going to get second. I think is probably the best thing to do here
Go
because,
for
of course,
second.
yeah, I think that's probably the best thing to do.
Can we have, I just want to double check, because all of the times I've seen, I'm used to doing it for league where it's either team A or team B. So I'm not quite sure how many options can we put in, and which options do we want to be putting forth for that P2 spot?
Well, I mean, you got to put Dougie Falcons, this man on screen right
Course.
now. He's got to be one of those options. AJ as well, who was on the front row last time out in Mexico. He's obviously got to be up there. ATUK is setting the pace at the beginning, so we'll put him up there as well. And why don't we put the new Division 1 champion Peso up there as well?
Okay, so Dougie, A2, AJ, and Peso.
Yeah, I think
Is
that
that
sounds
correct?
right.
Okay. Well, at the moment, it's an Alfa Romeo 1-2. AJ topping the timing tower with a 30 dead, a 10th clear of A2, and Dougie Falcons down in third. Simons and Peso not far behind either, but what can Jane Tripkov pull out? The man who finished P2, he invalidates through turn 20, exactly as we were talking about earlier. So easy to miss that turn in point as, oh no, Vallu.
Oh, dear.
Well,
Right. The move of a champion there into the pit lane from Vallu. That is, well, a weird mistake for someone of Vallu's quality to make there, as he's just going to go around again and got that 1:41.8 on the board after he came across the line there. So that's a roaring lap time from Vallu. Great banker lap there. Hopefully, we'll be seeing some improvement from the Finnish driver towards the end of this session. But yeah, we are, of course, in short qualifying today as well, due to only having 14 drivers on the grid. Otherwise, we would have a Q1, which was meaningless. So when there's 15 drivers or fewer, we are now using short qualifying.
yeah. So, okay, apparently we can't have a poll for more than two people. So we have to have it as a head-to-head.
All right. Head to head, why don't we say, let's say, uh, I think Dougie Falcons and AJ would probably be my two picks for it. Dougie would
Okay,
usually be.
Dougie Falcons and AJ.
AJ's been there recently, so
Okay, okay. Dougie Falcons and AJ. There it is. Production, or well, whoever is heading up the stream team at the moment on Twitch, you know what to put. Dougie Falcons versus AJ. People, put your points in. I don't know what we're gonna do. I think we should have a thing where at the end of the season, whoever has the most points can get a prize or something. I don't know what it would be, but there's something there. There is definitely something there for the future.
yeah, we can work on that. Maybe we can get a better way to use the channel points on the channel as
No,
well.
I'm a moderator and I can't vote.
I am not
Oh,
a moderator. Here we go then,
that's what
putting
you
some
voted
money
for.
on Dougie Falcons here.
See, I would have gone AJ. I've got faith in AJ. I think he's got the one lap pace for it.
Slamming 500 on Dougie Falcons right now. So that's my bet, and you guys in chat can put your bets on to who you reckon it's going to be between Dougie Falcons and AJ. That just rocked it up. Who has put 18,000 on Dougie Falcons? Someone is pretty certain that Dougie's going to win this one. Nice bet. But anyway, let's talk about qualifying itself right now. Here's Sandro Van Sand, also known as Walter, standing in for the Williams team once again. In the last couple of races, due to a race bug not being able to attend, and Calcifer, same story. It's the Williams team has kind of become the Division One outfit, and it's been those top two, Peso and Walter, that have been taking the slots, and they're looking like a really, really solid pairing, even by Premier X standards. However, Sandro Van Sant has not been having the best of time in qualifying thus far, still yet to get a lap time on the board.
Yeah, and yesterday in qualifying, I think he was able to take. I think it was P3. He was on for a pole lap and then he binned it. He binned it right here. He lost the back end through the right king and went straight into a wall. I was in voice com with him. I was laughing at him. He was crying, but that was his front row start doomed. So he'll be hoping for better than that today. And to be honest, I think he can pull it through. We'll be looking to get into the low 30s as he invalidates his lap time, dives on into the pits. But unlike Vallu, I don't think ran wide.
No, I think he managed to make it into the pit lane that time. Here's Yanni Tripkov, who's going to be one of the drivers who is going to be a little bit upset that we chose AJ and Dougie Falcons as Peso goes to the very top of the order in the Williams there. First driver into the 129s with a legitimate lap time. Vallu was also on a 129.7 on that first lap that was invalidated, but of course, that one didn't count on the timing stands. So here's Yanni then into the final sector of the lap, and it seems to be looking pretty all right thus far.
Yeah, it's been a decent lap for Yanni, and he runs wide. And the thing is, with the turn 17, I never know if you've missed the apex, or pardon me, with turn 16, I never know if you've missed the apex or not, because, oh, well, Yanni definitely cut too much through turn 19 and will invalidate his time. Does he dive on into the pit? He does indeed, and there's only 6 minutes left in the session, so Yanni's just going to have to do this as a one-shot quali.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a rough situation for Yanni to be in at the moment. Especially cutting through 19. It's a really pointless place because you can just take that easy flat. It shouldn't be somewhere. Oh, no, sorry, through 19. Yeah, no. Well, yeah, I mean, that still is frustrating. It's something that you're going to have to leave a lot of lap time left on the table if you want to guarantee not cutting through 19 in the future. So it is something he's going to have to be very, very careful with, as Simons actually goes up in a second there in the Ferrari with a 129.966. Second driver into the 29s, but AJ, A2, Dougie, they're all out on circuit and looking to respond.
Ferrari versus Alfa Romeo. These are the two teams that are super close in terms of pace. Williams as well now with Peso and Sandro. And honestly, I'm so excited to see these 6 drivers going at it again next season as well. But do you hear boss music, Jacob? I think I hear boss music. I have a sneaky suspicion that Vallu's going to pull something disgusting. Something that is like a 128.9.
Well, I mean, that would be very, very disgusting indeed. We did see him having a messy lap before, and it was still a 29.7. So it's definitely possible, although not if he cuts through the S section there. Under pressure again, Vallu. This is something that has been an issue for him, invalidating in qualifying, giving him only one shot at the very end, but he always seems to pull it out nevertheless. But another invalidation there from the Finn.
That is bad news for Vallu. He's now on a one-shot quali, just like the likes of Yanni Tripkov and Marancello in the lone Mercedes. What can Dougie Falcons pull through into the penultimate corner? He goes. No invalidations of the sort, and into the final corner, third gear under rotation on the front left tire, but he gets the car hooked in, cross the line 129.4. And I think that just makes that 128 for Vallu look more and more likely, but a fantastic lap for Dougie Falcons.
More and more possible, certainly. There's AJ heading back into the pits, only on a 1:30.079. So currently sitting about half a second shy of Dougie Falcons, which is making my bet look pretty good in chat right now. Sandra Van Sand, once again, having to go again here in the Williams, slightly off kilter with the rest of them, and actually making a mistake through 10 as well.
Okay, so it is the time, Jacob, for the ultimate prediction. What is your top 3 prediction?
My top 3 prediction is Vallu on pole. He's going to pull it out there. There's no doubt about it. Dougie Falcons second. And I think I'm going to have to say Peso third.
I'm going to go Dougie Falcons, Vallu, Peso.
Okay. So you think Vallu is going to get a lap time in, but it's slower than Dougie's lap time? That's an interesting one. We'll have to wait and see whether that comes through.
I'm actually surprised that I put Vallu in the top 3 because, in all honesty, I don't think he's going to make it, but because I think we've seen before, actually, where Vallu's been in these situations and he does not hold back. He gives it everything regardless. So actually, I'm going to change that. I don't think Vallu's going to be in the top 3. I'm going to go Dougie, Peso, AJ.
All right. Well, maybe it'll be a 14th to first challenge for Vallu in the race. Maybe that's how he's going to find his fun. Yannick Tripkov definitely could well be in that conversation for the top 3 spots as well. We're yet to really get an idea of the Macedonians' pace around here, but if it's anything like it was a little bit further down south in Mexico, then Yane will be looking at a pretty high slot on the grid as he heads into turn 1. Just needs to make sure that he keeps all 4 wheels on the road, or at least 2 of them at all times. And through the S section that he's just coming up to now is going to be his first major challenge in that regard. You can't leave too much on the table. You've got to cut to a certain extent, but you just cannot go over those limits. And Yane does a great job of avoiding the limits through the first sector there.
Yep, and now makes his way down the hill towards turn 11. I reckon going through turn 10 in real life must be something rather exhilarating, but take all of the curb as you can through turn 11. Get on the power super early. Peso's started a lap, but let's see whether he can improve. But first of all, Yane Tripkov on the run down towards turn 12. And we'll have to see what that sector 2 delta time is. We'll get to the checkpoint. I think it's a turn 15.
Yeah, it's 1 minute 0.321, which I'm afraid I do not know how that stacks up relative to other drivers. Here is Peso just behind as well. Another driver who'll be gunning for a slot on the front row. These guys will be salivating at the prospect, by the way, of Vallu invalidating over and over again. Gives them all a big opportunity for pole and potentially a race win towards the end of the season, which can catapult them into season 3. And Yane Tripkov wide through the penultimate corner invalidates. Peso does not invalidate though, so up towards the line he goes in the Williams. Is this going to be enough? No, not quite. He improves by 0.2, but can't get ahead of Dougie Falcons.
300ths off, and I don't think Iceman really has the ERS to push for a second lap. We'll have to see. Vallu is on his out lap. JB is on a hot lap, and Yane is still pushing. He has to push. I don't know what that previous time was from Yane. I would assume it was in the 29s, but we of course have no idea.
Let's not forget in Mexico as well, he only got to participate in the very end of qualifying due to disconnection issues and still found his way up to, I think, third on the grid was it from Yane Tripkov in the end? It was a very, very impressive, pretty much one-shot qualifying performance from him there. And we're basically at the same scenario now with another one-shot for Yane in the Haas as he heads down the back straight and into the critical braking zone of turn 12. Going to be braking just before the 50-meter board. It's always so much later than I think it's going to be through there. Unfortunately, that is going to be Marancello retiring from the session without being able to set a lap time. So unfortunate for the Italian in the Mercedes. He'll be starting from the very back of the grid. JB will not be able to improve on his 1:30.8, which is good enough for 7th right now, narrowly ahead of his teammate Max in the other Renault. But here's Yane then into turn 19, the last major challenge. Just keep it on the road, Yane. And he does it was so close. He didn't leave much on there, but he just about holds it on the road and up towards the line he goes. What's it going to be? It's good enough only for sixth, but on a second set of tyres under extreme pressure. That is not a bad effort.
Yeah, both Alfa Romeos on a hot lap as well. So is Simons. But what is Vallu able to pull out of the bag? This is his final lap. It's a final chance. No invalidations just yet. And the only real invalidating spot is at turn 20. The penultimate corner. Is this a quaker from Vallu? Will he invalidate here? Slings it in or almost runs wide. He has to back out of it completely. AJ makes a mistake up ahead. He will not be improving. What does Vallu do? Oh, he loses the back end now in the final quarter, but it's still a 29.3 Vallu. How did he manage that? There was easily another 2/10 in that lap, but Vallu once again takes provisional pole.
Takes provisional pole for sure, but Dougie Falcons is still out there and is still pushing in the Ferrari. You'd have to imagine he has the ability to finish this lap. At least here is Simons, his teammate, who is also still pushing. It is not all over yet. Peso, A2 UK will not be able to improve on their times. Simons only needs to find a modicum to get ahead of A2 UK, a bit more to get up with the likes of Peso and his teammate Dougie Falcons. Dougie makes a mistake there through turn 11, and he's slightly down on his previous best time. He needs to find 2/10 in this final sector if he wants to challenge Vallu, and it's going to have to be a monster of a final sector here if he's going to be able to do that, because his lap time is already so good. And can he do it through the triple right-hander? He's not going to find too much time. He's got to be so committed here through turn 19. Watch him. Will he run wide on the exit? No, holds it really cleanly through there. And into the final corner we go. The last chance, he runs wide. He doesn't invalidate up towards the line, and he doesn't improve. So Vallu takes pole from Dougie Falcons in second.
Well, Dougie, so close to his first pole position of the season. But close, but no cigar. Peso right up there as well. And then 4/10 down to the likes of A2, Simons, and AJ. And who knows how much more time AJ had in that final lap. But Dougie Falcons then wins the bet. And he's the one who has beaten out AJ in our head-to-head of the day.
And nice lap time as well from certain other drivers. ONAK getting into the top 10, finishing ahead of Max JB. And then, of course, Sandro Van San and Marin Kello, who weren't able to set lap times. But that's some pretty decent scalps that Owen's been able to take there, in all honesty. So really nicely done by the Norwegian, who was, of course, a part of Premier X previously in the season 1 of Formula X racing.
Yeah, Walter will be starting outside of the top 10. He wasn't seemingly able to get a representative time in. So JB, Kenneth, Sandra Van Sand, and Chester Bennington, latter two, also known as Walter and Marincello, will have that fresh choice of tyres, and I wonder whether we'll be seeing any interesting strategies coming out from them.
Indeed, and congratulations to all my fellow bet winners on the Dougie Falcons bet. Did beat our AJ in the end. AJ couldn't really get it all together towards the end of qualifying. Finishes down in sixth, a couple of places behind his teammate and effectively championship rival for third in the championship. Good news for those two Alfa Romeo drivers is they are ahead of Jane Tripkov, who they are also battling for third in the standings. However, bad news for them is that Simons had a great qualifying, and so did Dougie Falcons. So the Ferraris looking in a good spot to try and solidify their hold on second in the constructors.
Yeah, Ferrari might be able to wrap up that second place in the constructors tonight, seemingly with the pace that Simons and Dougie are showing. So we've got to do our predictions now for the top three, and also decide what poll we want to be going out on the Twitch for people to put their channel points on.
Well, I think a good poll to start off the race, we want to run maybe a couple of polls. So we could start with one, you know. Well, how about something for the first few laps? How about something like, are we going to see a virtual safety car or safety car in the first 5 laps?
Okay. I like that. Will we see a VSC or safety car in the first? I think we should make it shorter than 5 laps, like
first
one lap or 3 laps. Yeah, one lap or 3
lap.
laps. Okay, first laps. Okay, yeah, we can only do one at a time. So we can do first lap, safety car, virtual safety car. And then after that, we can decide, we can do a head-to-head between, well, I mean, the likes of AJ, Dougie, A2, Peso, that whole group of drivers.
Yeah, we'll see how the race is unfolding as well. See if anyone falls by the wayside ridiculously. So people don't bet on Dougie and then he spins it on the exit of the first corner and then they cry as their channel points all flood away. Especially if someone bets. Well, I only bet 500 channel points. I didn't bet 18,000 or whatever it was that ended up being the bet there. But Yeah, as we now are onto the formation lap, why don't we take a quick look at the tyres? Everyone outside of the top 10 has elected to run. Of course, everyone inside the top 10 has to go for those softs. Interestingly, Yanni Tripkov's softs will be a bit more worn than everyone else's, because he did effectively do 2 flying laps on those. So watch out for him struggling towards the end of the first stint. Marinkello is the only driver outside of the top 10 who's opted for the softs. Everyone else in the form of JB Kenners and Sandra Van Sand have all gone for the mediums.
Yeah, so interesting that Marancello is going for these soft tires. He should be able to cut his way through the field fairly quickly. We know that Marancello does have a pace, so we would expect him to start making his way up. The kind of crossover point between the medium and softs, I feel, is around about the lap 8, lap 7, lap 8 mark is when the mediums will get quicker. You can do a one-stop here at USA, soft to mediums or medium to softs. If you're on the softs, you'll be pitting around lap 9, lap 10. If you're on the mediums, you're going to be pitting at lap 17, lap 18.
Yeah, indeed. So a couple of different strategy options available for these drivers as we make our way around. And predictions started in chat, so you guys can bet on whether you think we will see a virtual safety car or safety car over the course of the opening lap, or whether it's all going to be clean between these two drivers. Or 2 drivers? All these drivers. 14 drivers.
So just to clarify, we're deciding this the moment the race leader crosses the line and starts lap 2, correct?
Yes, the moment the lap chart on the top left, actually, that tends to bug out. But when the race leader enters lap 2, yes.
Okay. Apparently, we're having some issues with in-game sound, so maybe we could get that fixed just before the race starts, hopefully. And then we will be underway for the penultimate time this season.
Indeed. The bet's looking a lot closer this time around. It's 6,000 points against 8,000 points or thereabouts for yes and no. So some people are going to be disappointed, but we'll only have to find out in a moment's time here, as it looks like Walter has had some adventures on the outlap as he's taking a while to form up at the back of the grid there. The AI in control of his car, of course, as it comes up towards the line now.
Here we go then, the penultimate time this season. Vallu, Dougie Falcons on the front row of the grid. How many times have we seen that before? And here we go.
The lights coming on then. And they go out, but we wait for them to go out for the drivers here at the Circuit of the Americas, and we are underway, and it looks like a clean start off the line there from Dougie Falcons. Simons has got a great start as well. That's Peso getting swallowed up a little bit in towards turn 1. Dougie Falcons challenging for the lead and takes it away from Vallu. 3 wide behind them as well, as A2, Peso, and Simons are all battling. Now it's between Peso and A2 as Simons has backed out of that particular scrap, and they're still trying to go side by side through the S's, but Peso holds on at the end. So it is Dougie Falcons who takes the race lead away. Meanwhile, AJ is looking to get past Simons, who had a great start off the line, but it's all gone wrong from him ever since turn 1. He's still trying to battle around the outside of AJ, and he just about holds it against the Alfa Romeo, who now falls prey to Yanni Tripkov. They might be 3 wide into turn 11 here as well, as that's Max diving up the inside. He's not shy of a scrap in the Renault, and he sends it and takes 6th position away, but they're going to be dragging each other all the way back down this straight.
Yeah, and once again, AJ falling victim to lap 1 shenanigans, losing a whole bunch of places. He's now down in PA as here comes Yanni Tripkov down the inside of Max into turn 12, side by side. He's got the inside. Will he be able to find the traction? Because you can run side by side all the way from turn 12 right into the triple right-handers as Yanni holds around the outside of the double right. You'll have the inside for the double left-hander, and he should be able to get the position done and dusted as the Macedonia moves up into P6.
Great battling from these guys here. Max with a great start off the line, but Yanni Tripkov laying his advance up through the field there. Nicely done by the Macedonians, as you mentioned. Simons already with the first 3-second time penalty of the race. Didn't take long for that one to come through, and that's going to be a warning, at least for JB as well, who ran wide through turn 20. And as a result, that is going to be Marinkello taking that position away. Up into 11th he goes, getting past all the medium runners while on those softs. Pretty critical for him. Meanwhile, further up, here is A2 UK having another go at Peso. Tried to get him off the start line, couldn't quite do it. Now Peso under pressure once again. But A2 UK still cannot find a way past quite yet. Interestingly, at the very front, Dougie Falcons almost built a second to Vallu for a second.
Yeah, Dougie Falcons trying desperately to pull as quickly as he can. Peso's already a second behind Vallu, as that's Walter having had a moment. Did he try to run side by side with Kenneth? Potentially, it might have cost him, and it might be the reason we now see him at nearly 6 seconds off the train of cars from P13 all the way up to the lead of the race. As is almost closing back within a second, and Vallu's almost fallen more than a second behind Dougie. I do wonder if Dougie has really burnt through his battery.
Yeah, maybe he was just desperately trying to gap Vallu before the point where we get to DRS. He actually still has quite a bit left in the tank. So Dougie Falcons looking pretty strong here today. We might well see a battle for the race win after all. There's a couple of other times I've said that, and it's turned out not to be true. As Max and AJ were battling further down as well. Walter having a really rough day is the Belgian, the reserve driver in the Williams, not having a good time of it in qualifying nor in the race thus far, as he's currently 7.5 seconds off the back of the field. And both Max and Chegwin have now taken advantage of AJ, who's fallen further down into 9th. Another driver not really having a clean run of things here.
Yeah, and AJ needs to work his way up the order as quickly as he can. He should be able to get past Chegwin fairly comfortably. And of course, DRS is enabled on this lap. Chegwin just within a second of Max, so it might make things a little bit trickier for AJ, but once he's able to get past Chegwin, Max has no DRS from Yane, so the Renault should be easy pickings for the Alfa Romeo driver.
Both Sandro Van Sand and JB into the pits then. Probably reveals that they came to blows, and that was what sent Sandro around. So both of them having to get onto a fresh set of tyres, his Peso and A2 UK, who are still battling, but now it is A2 UK who has been able to make the move and get past the Williams driver. A2 also seems to have picked up a corner cutting warning in the process, and as a result has a penalty to his name. So while he has got track position over Peso, he does have the disadvantage of that penalty for now.
Yep, and here comes AJ round the outside of Chegwin into the braking zone for turn 12. He'll look to get the switch back, but Chegwin holds on to the position. Now, one of the biggest overtaking spots on the circuit is down into turn 15, and we'll see whether AJ can slot underneath the racing point, and the answer is no. He'll look to get the switch back, look to get the better exit speed, but is fairly unsuccessful in doing so.
Indeed, yeah. So AJ still mired down there in P9 right now. Definitely not the way he would have been hoping for this race to go, especially if he wants to try and be A2 UK and Yane Tripkov to third in the championship, because Yane's had a decent start. A2's had a positively good start up in the third right now. Here comes AJ once again, another stab up the inside this time of Chegwin, and I think this time the move should be done and dusted. The Alfa Romeo cruising past the racing point as they climb up the hill there. Back down they go with the positions reversed. AJ back up into 8th.
Yeah, now AJ can look to get past on Max as quickly as possible, but sadly though for AJ, Yane made that mistake on the previous lap, so is giving Max a DRS at the present point in time. Either way, remember, AJ, Yane and A2 in this battle for P3 in the championship. And at the moment, AJ is the one who's at the very back of that group, only by a couple of points, but he will not want to finish behind his teammate and the Macedonian.
Indeed, yeah. Dougie Falcons still leading by 8/10 at the very front. Vallu not closing him down too much, but might just be sitting back trying to hold those tyres in a good condition for the time being. Chester Bennington, that is Marinkello, having a move up the inside of Chegwin there. Black Mercedes goes past Pink Mercedes, and Marinkello finds his way up into 9th. After not being able to set a lap time in qualifying, he's having a good start to this race. The decision to start on those soft tyres does seem to be paying dividends for the Italian.
Yeah, and good stuff from Marincello to move up to P9. Now, he's now on the back of AJ, and let's see actually if he can get past the Alfa Romeo. I think he can. He's actually showing a lot of pace right now on those soft tyres, and Marincello might be an outside shout to even pick up a podium tonight.
Well, that would be very, very impressive drive indeed from Marinkello. Would be his first podium in Premier X as well. Best result thus far this season is a single 5th place finish, and I believe that was back at the French Grand Prix, unless I'm very much mistaken, which I might well be, but I think it was back at the French Grand Prix. Anyway, very wet affair, that one. There's AJ up ahead, all over the rear end of Max, who is holding him up right now. But to be fair to Max, Yane Tripkov is holding up the pair of them. I wonder if Yane has a little bit of front wing damage, because usually you would not expect to see Max all over his rear wing, of course. This might also be the extra tyre wear that Yane picked up during qualifying, line, doing that extra hot lap. His wing seems to be intact, so I think he's just really struggling with those tires that have had that extra heat cycle put through them more than the rest of the drivers right now. As a result, he's driving a bit of a train that Chegwin threatens to fall out of there with a bit of a moment under traction on the exit of turn 1. But yeah, several drivers all battling for these positions behind Yane.
Max having a little thinker down the inside, but he's too far back as Yane will run wide. He holds on to P6. He's dropped so far back from Simons. I reckon there's a little bit of damage. I reckon it might be a light green wing, or either that, or Yane's really struggling with his setup, and he must have overheated his tires massively. And the key thing with this circuit, at the Circuit of the Americas, is that you have such a long sequence of corners that once you overheat your tires, it's nearly impossible to cool them back down, and Yane's actually going to dive on into the pits.
Yeah, those tires, he cannot hold on to them any longer, whether it's just heat or whether it's wear as well. It's the Macedonian who is going to be the first to blink in terms of a regular scheduled pit stop. JB and Sandro Van Sant have also already pitted. Now here comes AJ up the inside of Max, selling the dummy and slithering up the inside he goes. Nicely done by the Alfa Romeo, but the battle's not over yet, as Max is fighting back as they head down the hill. A 3-second penalty for Vallu further up the order as well, while AJ does manage to hold on to 6th, getting past the Renault.
So that's a penalty coming in for Vallu, and usually, you know, we saw at Russia, Vallu just sitting ahead of Dougie for a really long time and not pulling, as Max has a huge moment coming over the crest and almost completely loses the back end, either way able to keep it on circuit. But going back to Vallu, usually we see him able to just sit in front of Dougie and just keep things fairly chill. I don't think that's the case right now. I think he's pushing. I think he's trying to get past Dougie fairly quickly, and he's making mistakes. He's picking up these time penalties as Marancello flies past Max on the DRS straight, and, well, Marancello really flying up to P7.
Yeah, really having a great run of it up through the field. Not only did he pass all the medium tire runners in the first couple of laps, he's starting to pass all these soft tire runners as well, doing a great job in the Mercedes. He's shown flashes of pace throughout this season, but it's been pretty inconsistent, and there's been a fair few incidents as well that the Italian's been involved in, but this looks like a whole new driver here today. And now AJ might well find himself falling prey to the Mercedes behind as well. 35% in the ERS, that's not too bad either for Marancello, especially if he can save it up over the course of the next lap. Meanwhile, further behind, Max has now headed into the pits in the Renault, so he's had enough of battling with all kinds of different drivers, as he's going to strap on surely a set of hard tyres at this stage.
So right now, for Marancello in P7 and AJ, does Marancello want to work with AJ? They're currently 4 seconds behind Simons, but if they do work together, they could close that in much quicker than otherwise possible, as Marancello makes the mistake and now drops over a second behind AJ. So that should give AJ some breathing room to close into Simons, and you can see that gap visibly decreasing. It was about 4.2 seconds, but courtesy somewhat of AJ track extending.
Yeah, definitely gaining a little bit of time there with that one was the Alfa Romeo driver. And I was about to say how AJ and Marancello are in a good spot, because with the exception of Peso and Dougie Falcons, everyone ahead of them had time penalties to their name. But now AJ has time penalties as well, as here comes Peso back up the inside of A2 UK. So the Alfa Romeo did get past the Williams a few laps ago, but couldn't gap him beyond that point. And now the Czech driver has got back past the Brit, and up into third he goes. With no penalties to his name, he's sitting pretty for that bottom step of the podium right now, unless Vallu picks up any more penalties. I don't think Peso can be thinking about second or first.
So I've just had news coming in from a Twitch chat, courtesy of Matt. I don't know whether this is accurate, but it would make sense. Vallu is not racing with the racing line. And remember what I was saying beforehand about USA being a very tricky track to be consistent at? Well, all of those are blind braking points. All of those are blinded turning points. With a racing line are super, super easy. But without a racing line is much more difficult. And maybe that is a costing Vallu that extra half a second a lap that he'd usually be able to put on display for us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Very revealing, if that is the case, certainly that Vallu is not using the racing line here today. Definitely struggling a bit more than he would usually do by virtue of that fact. He still managed to get pole position. He still, I believe, is the fastest driver in the field, but he's not so much faster than Dougie at this point. Relatively new to driving without the line, of course. I mean, with time, he'll get more and more used to driving without the line. He'll get more and more used to the way it feels, how you can react to the circuit and so forth. But Vallu definitely struggling a little bit more than he would usually be doing. However, his ERS is looking pretty healthy relative to that of Dougie Falcons right now.
A2 just overtook Peso. He just went down the inside into the hairpin and has been able to reclaim a P3 now. AJ's 2.8 behind Simmons. He's gained by over a second in what, the last lap or so? Simmons has fallen back ever so slightly from Peso, but these are two of AJ and Marincello will be on the back of the Ferrari in no time at all.
Yeah, indeed. As shout out to Fister in chat as well, who's won a couple of these bets in a row and now is using those hard-earned channel points for a very good effect. Thank you for that one, Fister. But yeah, back to the race we go with Dougie Falcons leading the way out at the front from Vallu. Then 4.2 seconds down to A2 UK and Peso, who have been battling quite a lot. So that's going to be hindering their ability to stick with the leading pack. Simom's falling away in a bit of an island right now. 3.1 seconds behind Peso, but 2.5 ahead of AJ, though the gap is falling down, as you mentioned. Chegwin can't quite live with the pace of AJ and Marincello either, but he is building a gap to Owen AK behind, who, let's not forget, Owen tends to be a driver who does benefit by keeping it clean when others pick up penalties, so we might well be looking at a similar story again for the McLaren.
Yeah, we saw it back in Season 1 where he almost secured that rather crazy victory in the season finale of Season 1 back in Abu Dhabi. Sadly, though, it didn't go his way in the end. I want to talk, though, a little bit about Max and Yanni, because Yanni's put on the hard tires. He's going to be going to the end of the race, but Max will have another pit stop to do and will most likely be putting on a set of the softer tires for the final 7-8 laps of the race.
Interesting to see Max going aggressive then with the strategy, going for that two-stop. We'll see whether it's going to work out for him or not. He will need to continue to build that gap to Yanni Trepkov, as you mentioned, but he does have a comfortable 8.7 second margin up to Kenner's ahead, so plenty of clean air in which to really push that Renault to its limits.
Yeah, A2 still 4 seconds behind Vallu, so A2 and Peso are not falling back as well. Vallu, he cut the corner on entry and he cut the corner on the exit, and that was enough for him to pick up a 3-second time penalty. I'm going to say it. I think Dougie has this race.
Well, I mean, that's a big claim for this early stage of the race, only 10 laps in, but Dougie definitely is in the driver's seat right now. Simons has made a mistake. Oh, never mind, he's headed into the pits, so disregard that. He's just pitting, is the Austrian in the Ferrari. He's going to be going on to probably a set of hards, but maybe he could run mediums now.
Yeah, so the mediums will be able to make it to the end of the race as Peso picks up a time penalty. So it's only Dougie Falcons, Owen, and Yanni Trepkov who don't have time penalties. If there's a late safety car, oh boy, is that going to add some drama.
Absolutely, yeah, it could well do, but Simons did go for the hard tyres in that pit stop, interestingly enough, rather than the mediums, which could probably make it to the end. I think that's something we've seen from Simons in general thus far this season, always going for the safer optional strategy, but never mind that right now, because here comes Vallu, looking to finally pull the trigger and make the move around the outside of Dougie Falcons. Can he hold it round there? No, they can't. They bang wheels, but Dougie Falcons holds on to first, and that is the first proper charge we've seen from the Finn, and Dougie Falcons resists.
Yeah, great defending from Dougie. Maybe a bit aggressive on the exit. Maybe could have left some more room from Vallu, but I don't think Vallu picked up any damage, so all's well that ends well and all of that. Lap 10 of 28. This is when I think we're going to be seeing the drivers diving on into the pits. This is Vallu's chance to go for the undercut, and actually the pair of them head on into the pit.
A2 UK picking up yet another 3-second time penalty. Marincello also got past AJ on this previous lap and is now starting to gap the Alfa Romeo already up to 3/4 of a second after only the final sector of the lap. So Marincello once again putting on a spurt of pace and really proving his value at this racetrack right now. Very not quite proving that he's Vallu, but never mind that. He is definitely putting on a very good performance right now. However, 5.3 seconds up to Peso ahead, and both of them with time penalties in the bank. So definitely going to be needing to close down that gap by quite a bit more if he's going to get that podium that you were thinking about.
Yeah, needs to still work up the order. Let's see where everyone comes out relative to Yanni Trepkov. So, well, Chegwin comes out behind Yanni with fresh mediums to Yanni's old hard. So this is not looking good for the Macedonian at all. He really needs a safety car or virtual safety car to bring himself back into play.
Indeed, and Dougie comes out of the pits then down in 5th already, very close behind Owen AK.
I think Dougie's just gone past Owen, and he's done it with DRS on the back straight. Nice and easy, fresher medium tires to old softs, and just able to get much better traction coming out of turn 11.
Yeah, nicely done there by Dougie to further his way up through the field. A2 UK also dispatching Kenners further behind, although that battle is still continuing between those two. But there is the Alfa Romeo with the much fresher tyres, getting past the Red Bull of Kenners. And back up into 7th goes A2. And there's Kenners losing it. In the background there, Kenners losing it under the dirty air conditions that he's not really had to drive in thus far this race. Behind A2 UK there, he's managed to get it back going again. But those medium tyres are going to be a little bit worse for wear, and he's probably going to want to be on those for a little while longer. Owen AK getting passed by Vallu half a lap after he got passed by Dougie Falcons, and now heading into the pits along with Peso and Marinkello as well. So all of them are going to go on to mediums to the end of this race. Only one driver left out there on softs, and that is AJ at the very front.
AJ's going to lose a lot of time. These softs are significantly slower than the mediums, and I reckon that gap between AJ and Dougie Falcons will be well under 4 seconds by the end of this lap. Dougie Falcons somehow pulled 2 seconds to Vallu in the pits. I have no idea how that has happened, but Dougie Falcons clearly just making his way through the traffic quicker, and now he's got 2.5 seconds to Vallu, who also has 6 seconds worth of time penalties.
Yeah, Dougie came out of the pits about 1.4 seconds or thereabout ahead of Vallu. So he did gain sometime in the pit lane itself, about half a second to a second, but the gap has only increased ever since that moment. I wonder, did Vallu maybe pick up damage getting past ONAK? I don't think so. The front wing of that Alfa Tauri, sorry, looks pretty intact. So it does seem that Dougie is just able to gap Vallu now that he's got him out of his DRS.
Yeah, and I don't think it could have been wing damage, because you lose more than 2 seconds in the pit stops, and Vallu's really falling back. So the flying Finn is not flying right now. He's treading on thin ice and just trying to keep the car on the track, it seems, and he might actually lose a position to A2 shortly. He's only 2.6 seconds ahead as Jani Tripkov right on the back of Chegwin.
Yeah, and Chegwin there, I think, getting past Jani Tripkov, unless I'm very much mistaken. AJ dives into the pits from what was the lead of the race for only a couple of laps there, as he'll now be tumbling down the order a little bit. And yeah, Jani Tripkov, a bit of a roadblock for some of these drivers right now, ahead of Kenners after that spin for the Red Bull driver. But going on hards to the end is not really going to suit Jani, I don't think.
AJ's just put on hards.
Well, that's an interesting decision for sure. Maybe it was a mistake then from the Alfa Romeo driver, but it does seem like a weird choice.
I mean, there's no reason why you'd extend your stint by 2 laps to put on the harder compound of tires at the end. I think he's misclicked. I think he's made a mistake on his multifunction display and selected the wrong tire compound. AJ, well, he should be on mediums and he should only be 2 seconds behind Max, but he's on hards now, and I think if he can get a top 5 finish, that'll be a good redemption for him after this, well, what is a blunder in the pit stop.
Yeah, it's been a terrible race, really, for AJ thus far, and that's just compounding it as well. I'd be very, very surprised if he could get a top 5 finish unless everyone else gets so many more penalties that he's able to regain those positions. But right now, he might even struggle to get a top 10 finish at this stage. Maybe might be able to hang on in 9th, but Chegwin's all over his rear end on those medium tyres. And there's going to be a while where those mediums are still in the zone and those hards will not be. So he might well find himself falling prey to the Racing Point.
Yeah, lap 24 is when I would estimate that AJ's hard tyres will be matching the pace of the medium. So, I mean, by the time his hards are matching the medium's pace, he should be faster than the likes of Max and Chegwin around him. But it will take a while, as we have a new poll out in the chat. Will Chester Bennington, aka Marinkello, be able to overtake Simons by lap 16? I think anyone who says no is hard trolling here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a yes as far as I'm concerned. I'm predicting the customer amount as we speak. That's going to be a yes vote from me on that one, as A2UK picks up yet another 3-second time penalty. Every now and again, A2 has one of these races where he just cannot stop racking up the penalties, and it's happening here today at the US Grand Prix. So while his pace is really good, it's actually pretty even with the race leaders at the moment, now that he's been able to drop pace. So he is very inconsistent with his track limits and picking up quite a lot of those penalties.
And here comes Chester Bennington. Simmons will go defensive, but he's on hard tires. And the Mercedes is on mediums. And he is now well and truly through. Whoever said no, well, I don't think anyone said no. So there won't be any exchange of points in this Twitch channel point bet.
Yeah, unless someone terribly generous wants to predict it right now. Oh, never mind. The prediction result has come through, so you can't cheat the system either. But out of the front, it's 3.2 seconds now between Vallu and Dougie Falcons. Vallu has stopped the bleeding, but he's not closing back in on Dougie Falcons. The gap has stopped extending, but that's all that Vallu has been able to do at this stage. He's also stopped losing time to A2 UK behind. That gap at about 3.1 seconds between those two. Again, relatively consistent. And the gaps are remaining pretty similar between the top four. We'll see now whether Marankello can look to close down Peso over the next few laps, because if he can, that's the podium, because A2 UK has so many penalties.
And I'm going to be absolutely serious here. This question is 100% serious, Jacob. Who do you think takes P2? Vallu, Peso, or Chester Bennington?
It's Vallu. It's Vallu for sure. I mean, I'm pretty certain it's Vallu, yeah. Unless he picks up 9 seconds or more worth of time penalties. At the moment, he's only on 6. It's only 3 seconds more than both Peso and Chester, aka Marankello. So I think Vallu still claims second in this race. I'm pretty confident in that. Okay. However, if he starts picking up a lot more penalties, I might change my tune. But for now,
no, you're not allowed to change. It's set in stone from here.
Okay, in that case, Vallu absolutely set in stone. The Finn will fit in second. As now, Chegwin looking to finish somewhere higher than 9th. He's looking to get past Max here. AJ's already been able to dispatch Max despite the decision to go onto hard tires. Max fighting back here against Chegwin, though. Not going to let the Racing Point through quite so easily as the Alfa Romeo a couple of laps ago. So we'll see whether Chegwin can pull off the move down into 15. It is a potential overtaking opportunity, but not really much of one. And indeed, he does not dive it up the inside. So that's another half a lap stuck behind the Renault at least.
And Max doing a good job to hold on to the position. Remember, he's got 4-lap older medium tires. Max has another stop to do. There's no way. I don't think he takes those mediums to the end. They will be absolutely shocked. Going on about 80% tire wear, he might even be risking a puncture if he tries to drag them out.
Indeed. So we'll see. Also interesting that AJ has such solid pace on those hard tires right now. He is closing down the gap to Simmons, who admittedly is also on hard tires. But he is gapping Max pretty well. Chegwin is struggling to get past Max here, and that's allowing AJ to build even more of a gap down to the Racing Point, who he might have been under threat by if Max hadn't been there to create this gap between them. So it's starting to fall maybe a bit back more in AJ's favor at this stage. Jano Tripkov picking up his first 3-second time penalty of the race, meaning that every driver, barring Dougie Falcons, has a penalty.
Dougie keeping it clean, and that's what he needs to do now. He just needs to keep it clean to the end of the race. 13 laps remaining. Also, AJ's doing a good job. He's 2.3 seconds behind Simmons, and if he can slowly close that gap down, he's got a chance maybe even for a top 5 finishers. Here comes Chegwin down the inside of Max. They have a little bit of a love tap between wheels as Chegwin slides on through down the inside. And oh, that's a late dive from Max. Was it clean? We'll leave it to the stewards. Still side by side. Can Max look for the switchback down the inside? He will indeed, and Chegwin will try to hold it the long way. He'll have the inside now for the triple right-hander as the Racing Point and the Renault run side by side through 17, 18, 19, and oh no, Chegwin loses the back end, and he has a huge tank slapper, and he's going to have to spin his Racing Point back round.
Terrible couple of seconds there for the Racing Point team from Season 1, because Ken has also had an incident on the exit of turn 14 yet again, as he did earlier in this race. So both him and Chegwin having moments at the same time there, as here comes Jane Tripkov close behind Max now. Max will have expended a lot of his ERS and a lot of his tyre life as well in the battle with Chegwin, and also in the battle with AJ a few laps ago. So Jane might have a good opportunity to try and take advantage of a rather limping Renault right now.
And I'm not sure if there was contact between Chegwin and Max through the triple right-hander, or if Chegwin just tried to hold it a bit tight and lost the rear end. Again, I'm sure it will be submitted to the stewards, one that Max himself will be unable to steward due to being a driver involved. But here comes Jane Tripkov. No DRS available for Max, and the Macedonian should make this look fairly simple.
Indeed, and Oh, he's weaving this way and that, trying to find a way around the Renault, but he goes for the outside line in the end and easily ahead in the braking zone, meaning that Max cannot fight back against the Macedonian. He does run wide on the exit there, but I don't think that'll be too much of an issue. And Yane Tripkov moves back up into 8th, then getting past the German, who is descending down into 9th.
Yeah. Also, just keeping an eye on the gap between Peso and A2. 2.2 seconds. A2 is dropping back from Vallu, who I believe has closed in onto Dougie by a small amount, but it's not by a significant enough. He might be able to close up and find a way past the Ferrari driver, but with his time penalties, it won't be enough to secure a win.
Yeah, very unlikely, unless he gives Dougie a pretty hefty tap on the way through as well. Peso is getting a little bit closer to A2 UK, but Marankello's charge has been rather halted. He's actually falling further away from Peso at this stage. So it seems like 5th or maybe 4th is the best he can hope for, depending on his penalty situation relative to A2 UK at the end of this race. Currently about 7 seconds behind the Alfa Romeo, but only with 3 seconds of time penalties in the pocket relative to 12 of A2 UK. So at the moment, he needs to be within 9 seconds of A2 to stay in that position, to claim 4th away from him, I should say. But at the moment, that's looking a little bit perilous for the Mercedes.
Yeah, AJ now almost within a second of Simons as Chester 6 seconds behind Peso, 11 laps remaining. It'll be an ask and a half for Chester to be able to close that gap down, maybe with time penalties. Marankello will have a possibility of finishing within the top 3. Of course, A2 has a huge bundle of penalties, just like he did last time out in Mexico. There you go, 12 seconds. Everyone else around on 3 with the exception of Vallu. As JB picks up his 3rd time penalty of the race.
Yeah, and it's not going to matter too much for the Portuguese driver because he is comfortably at the back of the field after that opening lap incident, we presume, with Sandro Van Sand having to go into the pits on, I think, the 3rd lap of the race. It's not really been a day to remember for JB, who, has had some pretty up and down performances thus far. His last 3 races, 14th, 3rd, 13th, and it looks like we're on course for another 13th here again. So unlucky for some, and it's either feast or famine thus far in his Premier X career for the new boy in the Renault. So he'll be hoping to get some more consistency coming towards maybe the final race and then going into season 3 as well. Vallu was closing down Dougie Falcons over the last couple of laps, but the gap has now expanded once again up to 3 seconds. So Dougie putting on a bit of a spurt of pace and letting the world know that Vallu does not have any pace over him here today.
And Peso's actually closed into A2, but here comes AJ on Simons. Simons is defensive. AJ will switch to the outside and surely will sweep past the Ferrari down into turn 12. Job done, and now AJ can try to focus on closing down Chester Bennington. He's 4.3 seconds behind, and we're slowly getting to that crossover point where the hards will be faster than the medium tires.
Indeed, yeah. So it's only going to be a little bit of time then before we can see the likes of AJ, Simons and Yane suddenly get more of an advantage over the cars ahead. Yane is going to get less of an advantage considering his hards are already 12 laps old. But it should help him at least to fight off Max behind, who's already going to be struggling a little bit on his 11-lap-old mediums.
Peso's also within 1.5 seconds of A2, so he's really closing in. And A2 starting to fall back from Vallu, so I wonder if A2 is starting to struggle now on his medium tires. Is this the point then where the hards become quicker than the mediums? As the mediums kind of have, I feel, 2 stages here at USA. They're on pace for the first 7 laps, then they kind of drop off and they jump down to B tier pace, let's say, for another 5 laps. And wow, Peso within a second. A2 is really struggling.
Yeah, we're in a rough couple of laps. A2 has lost over a second to Vallu up ahead, who, to be fair, is getting a bit closer to Dougie Falcons once again, so a bit of a spurt of speed then for the Finnish driver, but A2 doing the opposite as Peso is getting closer and closer. Chester Marankello falling still further away from the Czech driver here after such a promising charge in the opening laps of this race. He'll still be very happy if he manages to claim 5th position, considering he started from the very back of the grid, no doubt about that. Max also, by the way, has headed into the pits to get on a fresh set of soft tyres to go to the end to complete his 2-stop strategy. but I don't know how well that's going to work out for him. Currently down in 11th with 10 seconds between himself and Chegwin in 10th.
So Passo, within a second of A2, should be able to find a way through fairly quickly. He's got 30% ERS available to him. Chester Bennington is 8 seconds down, so Chester's also really struggling on his set of medium tires. So AJ and Simons, I would assume, will be able to find a way through in not too much time. And I just want to go back to our battle for third in the Drivers' Championship, because A2, while he's ahead of his rivals in the form of AJ and Yanni Dripkov, remember how much time penalties that he has going his way. So at the moment, it'll be AJ who's ahead of A2, and then Yanni Tripkov in third. I mean, third in the battle of these three.
Yeah, indeed. So we will see exactly how that all pans out towards the very, very end. There's probably some more penalties to be picked up by some of these drivers. The Dougie Falcons, by the way, really, really impressive. To be beating Vallu on pace, admittedly, Vallu has these has the issue of not using a racing line anymore, as Yanni Tripkov goes up to 6 seconds worth of time penalties. But Dougie has been the fastest driver here today, and the cleanest as well. The only driver sitting without any penalties right now. So credit where credit's due. The Ferrari driver is having a great race.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how Vallu takes the rest of the race. Does he take it as, okay, I'm not going to try to get any more time penalties? Oh, you had to jinx him. You had to jinx him, Jacob.
Oh dear. Well, he's got no one but himself to blame. I reject the notion of the jinx. Dougie Falcons there, letting himself down just a tiny bit, but of course it doesn't really matter very much at this stage. As long as he doesn't pick up another 3 seconds, he'll still have that advantage over
Don't jinx
Vallu.
him again here, Jacob. Don't jinx. If he gets another time penalty now, like within this lap, he's going to be out for your blood.
Maybe so, maybe so. But
Wow, Production's got to put the spotlight on as well. Okay.
Yeah, we'll analyze every single corner here as he heads through what is now, that's turn 8. Through turn 9 and then 10, and bit of a moment, but he uses all the road on the exit without having to run too wide, so no invalidation, or rather no time penalty being picked up there, no warning, as Vallu is getting closer further behind, so the pressure is starting to be put on just a little bit out at the very front.
Yeah, maybe this is what's causing the issues as more time penalties are flying in. I think we've got about 5 in the course of this. It's been rather ridiculous, as Kenneth has 24 seconds worth of time penalties. It won't be enough to see him fall behind JD, who has 12 time penalties of his own, as A2's dropped down. Pastor's been able to find a way through down into the hairpin.
Yeah, so A2, who's been struggling on this set of tyres for a few laps now, finally falling prey to Peso once again. In last race, we saw A2 battling with one of the Williams. That was Walter in a race-long battle between those two in Mexico. And now it's a race-long battle between Peso and A2 UK, which we thought Peso had fallen behind in after the pit stop. A2 UK seeming to claim the upper hand, but in the second half of this medium tyre stint, Peso has the pace over and above the Brit in the Alfa Romeo, and as a result, Peso back up into third he goes.
Yeah, now AJ right now is literally pretty much dangling on that 12-second mark between himself and his teammate, and well, that's the range pretty much that he needs to be in. He needs to actually be within 9 seconds, because AJ, I think, has 3 seconds worth of time penalties. So he needs to slowly close that gap in, as A2 definitely made a corner cut through the S's. So AJ needs to close in onto Chester Bennington, find a way through, and then stay within 9 seconds.
Indeed. Another vote out in chat, as the question is whether Dougie Falcons will pick up another 3 seconds of penalties or not. I know which way I'm voting on that, but you guys, I won't influence. I'll let everyone else decide exactly what they're going to vote on that one, as Dougie currently sitting on 3 seconds. If he does fall to 6 seconds worth, there will be a straight fight between himself and Vallu to the end, but one that Dougie definitely still has the upper hand on, even if Vallu is getting a little bit closer to that rear wing.
Now that A2's behind Peso, he's able to keep up, so he can use this as an opportunity just to save some ERS, just to stay within the range of Peso. And Peso 5.8 seconds behind Vallu. He's not falling back, is the young Czech driver. And if he can keep up this pace, he might even be able to bring it under 5 seconds. Oh no, Vallu's picked up another time penalty, which means Peso is on the verge of securing P2. Vallu runs wide through the final corner as well. And I was going to say A2 maybe could finish in the top 3, but never mind. He's got 12 seconds of time penalties.
Yeah, A2 has a fair amount of time penalties here, but Peso, it's all to play for right now. He's teetering over the edge as well. It's 5.7 seconds, 5.8, now 5.6 between himself and Vallu. That needs to stay under 6 seconds for the time being. And Peso is going to be driving his heart out to try and remain in there. What a scalp that would be for him. The Division 1 champion, if he could finish this race ahead of the Premier X champion, that would definitely be a big trophy on Peso's mantelpiece for sure. But right now, he's starting to get a little bit closer to that 6-second mark. The battle's not over and done with yet. The gaps are remaining relatively stable, with only a few laps left to go for Peso to remain within that 6-second margin. He definitely has a big chance.
Division 1 tougher than Premier X. That's all I'm going to say here. No, it's not, but we've seen Vallu's pace. Vallu racing without the racing line today, getting himself ready for Season 3, and hopefully he can bring himself up to a similar pace that he has shown over, well, the first, 4/5 of this season. That carry that pace into a Season 3. Peso right on that 6-second border. And I wonder now if Dougie Falcons, now that he knows that Vallu has another time penalty, whether he maybe starts taking some liberties with the track limits and maybe runs at the risk of himself picking up another time penalty.
Maybe he will settle that particular score. Another bet in chat as well. And you know what it's about? It's about Peso versus Vallu. Who's going to claim second in this race? Will Peso be able to keep within? He's doing a good job over the last lap. That gap has remained at about 5.8 seconds between himself and the Finnish driver. It's quite inconsistent. It goes up by 0.2, it goes down by 0.2. But in general, Peso is just about doing enough for the time being. He's got one extra lap's worth of freshness in those tyres as well. So let's not forget that. That could help him in these final few laps where Vallu's tyre wear is going to be getting pretty astronomical.
Got off a bit of a battle starting to form for P9. Chegwin has Owen just a second behind him, and then Max on fresh soft tyres half a second behind. So Max theoretically should be able to secure P9, but of course overtaking it is much easier in theory than it is in practice.
Of course, yeah, Max still should be able to get past ONAK here. 4 lap-old softs up against 12 lap-old mediums. However, it's only a couple of laps before those softs start to fall away from the Renault driver, so better make hay while the sun is shining. Better get past Owen as quickly as possible, and on the exit of turn 10 is no finer place to do it than that, that's for sure. That goes to show just how much of a grip differential there was between those two drivers. Max getting past Owen, and a part of the track where you would not usually expect to see moves taking place. And now it's Chegwin up ahead, 1.4 seconds down the road.
Yep. So just to remind people, as Dougie Falcons and Vallu start lap 26 of 28, 3 laps remaining. If things finish as they are, Dougie Falcons will secure P2 in the Drivers' Championship, and Ferrari, I believe, will secure P2 in the Constructors' Championship, with the way Simons is placed and with the time penalties that A2 currently has to his name.
Vallu, again, Peso's going to do it. Unless he picks up a penalty of his own, Vallu has thrown this one away. He's pushing so hard to try and catch up with Dougie Falcons. The gap is down to 1.4 seconds between them two. Actually, both Peso and Vallu are faster than Dougie at this stage of the race, but it doesn't really matter for the Ferrari driver. He did all the work in the first half of the race, and by keeping it clean as well, which Vallu has not been able to do. He was having these issues with the line on, picking up penalties in races. Now, with the line off, he's picking up yet more. Up to 12 seconds he goes.
Yeah, and well, let's just keep an eye on this battle first before I bring up more points, because Max is right on the back of Chegwin and should be able to pull off the same move that he did on Owen coming out of turn 9 and 10. Should be able to find the traction and throw it down the inside into turn 11. Either that or he can wait just a short while. Here we go then into turn 11. No, Max will slot behind. He'll get the slipstream. In fact, he's pretty much got the job done before the DRS zone even arrives.
Yeah, should be nice and easy. He does run the risk of giving a slipstream to the Racing Point down the second half of the straight as they bang wheels a little bit there. And that's Max, who should be going around the outside and just about gets ahead by the braking zone, and that leaves no option for Chegwin, who has to settle back down in 10th. However, 9 seconds of time penalty for Max relative to 6 for Chegwin means that all the Racing Point has to do is stay within 3 seconds of the Renault up ahead to reclaim that 9th position once we get to the checkered flag. Further up, though, Peso has fallen a little bit further away from Vallu. If he hadn't picked up that extra 3 seconds, this would be very, very exciting right now. But Vallu is also in DRS range of Dougie.
Yeah, and Vallu's kind of thrown caution to the wind. He just wants to be able to take this race win out on circuit, and I reckon Dougie Falcons will just push himself and, as I said before, take liberties with the track limits to ensure that that Vallu stays behind. So I wouldn't be surprised now if Dougie picks up a 3-second time penalty in the final lap of the race. AJ within 5/10 of the Bennington as they're making their way down towards turn 11. AJ is too far behind A2 to be able to jump ahead of his teammate, so it will be Chester Bennington who takes a P4 with the way things are currently looking.
Yeah, just though. It's going to be pretty close. But in fact, no, Chester's actually going to be on track for P5 at the moment. AJ looking to try and get past the Mercedes here. Can't quite do it at this stage, but definitely interesting to see AJ with these hard tires kind of making it work, to be honest. It's 10 seconds up between Chester and A2 UK, but with all those time penalties, if AJ gets past Chester right now and has a monster final lap, he might just be able to get in there. But I don't think so, with 6 seconds of time penalties already to his name. So A2 should be looking good in the battle for 4th in the championship, and maybe even in the battle for 3rd, with Jane Tripkov having a relatively disappointing race down in 8th. Which is a shame compared to his brilliant 2nd place finish last time out in Mexico. Here's AJ, though, up the rear end of Chester Bennington, aka Marin Kelly right now, and up the inside he goes. Easy as you like. The hard tires working much better than the mediums in these final couple of laps, and AJ moves into 5th.
Yeah, I don't think Chester Bennington wanted to put too much of a fight. He wants to stay within the 9 seconds or so to A2, and if he fights, there is pretty much no chance of that happening. So he just wants to try to let AJ drag him further forward, but AJ is absolutely flying on up ahead.
Peso's also put on a bit of a burst of speed. He's got back within 6 seconds of Vallu. Not that it matters anymore, but even if Vallu hadn't picked up that extra 3-second time penalty right now, Peso would have been on track to steal 2nd place away. So he is doing a fantastic job in the Williams. What a race it has been from Peso. Even more so here from Dougie Falcons, who's entering the final sector of the final lap right now.
Dougie Falcons is set to be, I believe, our 3rd different winner of the season.
Well, he's already got 1 win. He already is our 3rd different winner of the season, but he would be our first or our 2nd multiple race winner of the season, and he is going to be as he comes through the final corner right now. One last challenge, and he passes it with flying colors, and across the line goes the Ferrari to take the win in a straight fight with Vallu. Peso taking 2nd position away from the Finnish driver as well. A2 UK with plenty of penalties can only manage 4th. Here comes AJ, who'll come up across the line, won't be able to inherit 4th away from A2, and in fact he'll fall down to 6th once Marinkello comes across the line to claim 5th. Further down, looks like Jane Tripkov, Chegwin, and Max, they're all involved in a pretty intensive battle right now. That's Chegwin going around the outside, and that matters. Jane Tripkov's just fallen down into 10th. He must have made a mistake on the final lap here. You can see him wagging his tail on the exit of 19. Jane, with a disastrous final lap, loses 2 more positions and sinks down into 10th. Chegwin will claim 8th. Owen AK even will take both Max and Tripkov on penalties. So Owen moves up into 9th. Jane Tripkov,
he had a puncture.
11th.
He had a puncture. I think I saw one of the tires somewhat deflated. Look at the front right puncture for the Haas on the final lap.
Wow, that is a disaster on the hard tires as well. He had to go onto them pretty early. He was stretching them throughout the race, and they gave up on him at the critical moment. Here's Kenners across the line to take 12th, and what I believe is actually his best finish of the season. And now JB to take his 2nd, 13th place finish in a row, as it'll just be a couple more corners for the Renault driver in what has not been his finest hour in Premier X.
No, and it's the inconsistency that we're seeing with JB. We know he has the pace. He showed that at the Suzuka, but it's just hit and miss right now with the Portuguese driver. So hopefully come season 3, he can have that sorted. Fantastic drive from Dougie Falcons to secure the win. Great stuff from Peso to take a P2. Good stuff as well from Chester Bennington and Marinkello driving under that name to raise some awareness towards suicide victims. And I'm sure he'll be pleased with his result. But we really have a battle for 3rd in the Drivers' Championship now.
Yeah, indeed. Jane's poor result does ignite that battle even further. And A2 UK did claim the most points of the three who are interested in trying to take that particular prize at the end of this season.
And I also think this means that Peso now jumps up to, was it P7 in the Drivers' Championship as well?
I believe so, yes.
So things starting to spice up for the season finale next week in Canada.
Absolutely, yeah. And great result, though, from Dougie Falcons. Lovely to see him taking his second win of the season. Vallu on the podium still, but down in third. He'll be pretty unhappy, though, of course. Driving without the racing line, it is a very, very tough ask when you're very used to the racing line. It'll take a little while for Vallu to get used to that, but after a while, I'm sure we'll be seeing Vallu exactly at the level he was at previously, if not even faster, when he takes that line off properly.
Without a doubt. But on that note, we're going to be heading into a short break. And when we return, we'll be back with our driver interviews and the show outro. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with our top two drivers of Dougie Falcons and Peso, as well as Marion Callow. So jumping straight then to our race winner for the second time this season, Dougie. Well, congratulations on the win, start to finish. How does it feel to be the new Vallu of FXR?
I wouldn't put I mean, valid to valid. I don't know. Yeah, that race was pretty good. I just it was pretty clinical, really. I didn't expect Vallu to be off color, which caught me off guard. I thought he would be a lot more faster than that, and I'll just be alone, maybe in P2 or something. The race was quite boring, actually. It was nothing really went on. I just was trying to manage the gap, which was it was around about like 3 seconds to like 1.5, depending on if I fucked up or Vallu fucked up. So yeah, pretty fun one, pretty boring one, but it was good. It was a good victory.
Jacob, I'll throw it to you if you've got any questions for Dougie.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think pretty much said it all right. A boring race for sure, but I mean, that's what you want when you're out at the front, right? I mean, at what point in the race, I guess, did it become apparent to you that you were actually on target to win this? When did you think actually I can beat Value here
Lap 28.
today?
because I was thinking he's obviously he's either trolling me or trolling the entire grid. I thought he was gonna like overtake me and run away with it, or like he actually just didn't have any pace, and I didn't expect it, so I was just like so scared, like so sussed about the whole situation. So I was just like, okay, let me just drive my own race and whatever happens happens. Until we got to the last lap, I was like, I won the race. I was like, oh wow, that was actually a thing. So yeah, that's all I have to say really.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll move on to our P2 driver then, Peso. So Paso, any chance that any assists that you happen to run you could like remove for the final race, so I can have the Dougie Falcons kind of race in Canada next week?
No, I'm using no assist, so I have nothing to do off.
Well, I mean, P2 for you, you seem to be having a really good battle with A2 for such a long amount of time, but there seemed to be a period of about 3-4 laps where A2's pace really dropped off and you closed in. Was it a case of you just, going Super Saiyan for a few laps, or was A2 just struggling?
I think there was an issue in the setup because before the race I put lower wings just
Okay.
to have easier overtakes, and then I had no pace with these wings, so in the pit stop I put them back on to like 3.8, and I suddenly found the pace and overtook him. Yeah, this was really it. It was because of my wings.
Okay, well, apparently Red Bull gives you wings, so I don't know if you had any. Maybe it helped as well in the pit stops. Jacob, any questions for Peso?
I mean, yeah, a great result again. Obviously, this is your best result thus far in Premier X. Obviously, we don't know exactly what the grid is going to be next season and all that, but you got to be feeling pretty confident now going forward, yeah?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't have so much to ask, really.
Well, we'll move on next to Marion Keller. Now, Marion Keller, we gave a little bit of information because, of course, you weren't racing under the name of Marion Keller today. You were racing under Chester Bennington. Do you want to just give our viewers some information about what that all was about?
Yep. I think everyone know who Chester is, but he was the vocalist of Linkin Park, and he killed himself. So I used his name to, now that we are in some hard times and there's a lot of people going through stuff, as a way to make everyone know that they are not alone, and to everyone take care of themselves.
An absolutely fantastic initiative from yourself. On to lighter things, perhaps. Your race today, starting from the back of the grid, you seem to have a really good time carving your way up through the field.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it actually. When as soon as lap 2 started, I saw I had the pace and I managed to avoid some midfield shenanigans. And consistency was the key today.
Jacob, any questions for Marion Keller?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess first question, did you feel that there was a podium on the cards at any point during this race, or were you always thinking, well, fifth is about the best I'm going to be able to get here?
I was thinking maybe fourth because HUK had 12 seconds, but I was at the end I was struggling with my tires, so
Mhm.
I knew that the threat was from behind. I couldn't get any further.
And then also just thinking about the season more as a whole, you've had some really nice races. You've had a couple of really unlucky ones as well. Do you think that you ought to have had a podium by now? Do you think you could have had a podium by now? A, if you'd been here since the beginning of the season, and B, if you'd had a bit more luck? Or are you thinking that sort of fourth, fifth is about where you should be aiming for now?
I think I could, but I didn't by my fault in Singapore because I entered the pits and got a penalty, and I was sure get a podium that race if I didn't go to the pits. So I need some crazy races to get a podium, but I could have one already.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the performance today. I think it was definitely one of your best thus far in Premier X. So hopefully many more of those to come.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us for these interviews. Just a reminder to all of our viewers that sign-ups for Season 3 are now open and prizes for Premier X have been confirmed. £60 and a trophy for the winner of Premier X, £30 for P2 and £10 for P3. So if you fancy a bit of cash over the next couple of months, make sure to head on over to formulaxracing.com and sign on up. I believe it's still open for another couple of weeks, and evaluation races will be starting after Season 2 comes to a close. But from myself and from Jacob, that is all that we have time for. We'll be back next week for the season finale at Canada. We saw some spicy action there in Season 1, and who knows what is on the cards for our Season 2 finale. Thank you guys, everyone, very much for watching. Until next time, stay fast and good night.